Hey, everybody. It is good to see you. I'm just checking the chat to see who all is here. I see. Hey, Moxie. Good to have you in. Hey, Donnie. I'm glad you're here. Mandy Joe. Miss Susan Lupo. Good to see you. Jessica for Justice. Oh, Miss Dina, I'm so glad all of you are here today, this Saturday afternoon. So nice. Today hi Missy. I am trying to use a few visuals. So it'll be the first time that I do that. So we'll see how I do. Sarah's here too, aspiring court reporter. Charlotte, whatcha Charlotte? Hi Denise. Hi Ashy. I'm so glad everybody's here. Just wanted to start out with saying hello to everyone. And I was going to tell you that our mandala project is still going on, which is TDM, the Daily Mandala. If you want to join us, it's not too late. Yesterday, I made one about my grandmother, and this is it. I made this one, and it says, "Do I need a little lipstick, honey?" Because she used to ask that constantly. She never went anywhere without her lipstick, including like 5 minutes after surgery. She would ask you if she needed lipstick, and you'd be like, "Grandma, you're fine. You're in the hospital." And she's like, "The doctors might be hot." So she always needed to look her best. And I had been thinking about her because it's the holidays. And, there is just nothing in my life, there's been nothing like a grandmother. So that is what mine was about the other day. So if you want to join that, please talk to me on X /Twitter. I'm at the Shannon Shaming. Yes, I do have on my shirt one of my designs today. The husband did it. So if you are interested in our merch, you can still order anything and get it by Christmas, I believe. So now that I've got that out of the way, we're going to talk about the laundries today. And first, I just wanted to go briefly through my qualifications. I'm a registered drama therapist, which is a master's level mental health professional. I do not diagnose people, and I do not prescribe medicine. So the things that we talk about today, I'm not going to be diagnosing anyone. We are just, performing some speculation based on some of my training, the things that stick out to me that might strike a chord with me. So the first thing I wanted to do is I'm going to, oh, that makes me happy. I just saw that Dilly Pickles says, your grandma was the same way. Red lipstick. Yes. Yeah, there was no, it was not going to be like a brown color. She said brown was for old ladies. She said that until she was nearly 90. She couldn't wear any old lady colors. All right. So I'm going to go to this next screen so that I can show you some of my screens. The first thing we're going to go through today is just the timeline of the crime, because we have learned a little bit more about the timeline now that the Laundries are being sued civilly by the Petito family, the Schmidt and the Petito family. Gabby's mom's name is Nicole Schmidt, and that's her stepfather's last name as well. And then her father's last name is Petito. So they are in the midst of a lawsuit against the parents of Brian Laundrie. So we're going to, you guys, I did not have a time to make a graphic, so you're going to see it just like, you're going to see it just like I made it because I didn't have time to do it big. Okay, hold on. I was just practicing this, so. All right, I'm moving it over. Ooh. And so this is my timeline that I made. It's a couple pages long. So we're just going to go through this real quickly to get our bearings. And this has the added benefit of having some of the things that we learned from the lawsuit. So And of course, it does not have every single thing in it because there were, other events. Gabby had actually lived with Brian and his family for a point in time. That's not in here. They ended up postponing their wedding because of COVID. That's not in here. But in July of 2020, they got engaged. In December, Gabby purchases a van, which is like a little Ford Transit van. And they kind of like trick it out so that they can do the van life thing. And she has seen, during COVID and stuff like that, she definitely was right on the cutting edge of things. She's seeing all how people are living on the land, but also like on the internet and becoming influencers off that. So in July of 2021, they depart from Blue Point, New York, and they're going to go on a 4-month road trip. So, the very first stop, these next things that are in blue, these are where she has Instagram posts. So we know because she's posting, a photo of herself and or photos of scenery. So they stop in Monument, Kansas. They made pretty good time to make it from Long Island to Kansas in 2 days. They were really trucking. They then Colorado Springs, they moved on to the Great Sand Dunes. They went to a lot of national parks. So Zion was next, Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah, Mystic Hot Springs in Utah, Canyonlands National Park in Utah. And then in August, that is where we also have verification of what's going on because they had a police encounter. So I'm sure if you were, into this case at all, or even if you weren't really into this case, you probably have seen body cameras from the stop with the Moab City Police Department. So at that point in time, they're at Arches National Park, Utah, and they have to separate for the night. They put if you haven't seen it, you should go back and watch the body worn camera by the police officers, because it's the Petito and Schmidt family also has a lawsuit against the Moab City Police Department because they feel that they really failed Gabby in the situation. They basically identified Gabby as the abuser. They put Brian up in like a hotel for the night, and she was very scared because she had not been sleeping in the van ever by herself. And she was just, told she was going to stay in the van by herself that night. So the next thing that we kind of know what's going on is, so we have this turmoil that's happened between them. August the 12th, we see that. And then we see on the 17th through the 27th, Brian flew to Tampa from Salt Lake City. And he told, his lawyer, Steve Berlino, that was his counsel at the time, told people that Brian needed to go empty a storage unit so that they could save money, so they might extend the trip. And I think you do not have to be a mathematical genius to figure out that this was a terrible financial plan and likely not the truth, because a monthly cost for a storage unit, so they've paid, for July and August, and, maybe they're going to be gone they were going to make it 6 months instead of 4 months. So you have to pay for 2 months of a storage unit, or you have to pay for a round trip airfare. And at that point, Gabby stays in the she stays in the airport hotel for those 6 days. So that to me makes zero sense. I think what probably happened was that they were not getting along, and he possibly, left to make a point, or they needed space, something like that. So he flies back to Gabby on the 23rd. And then on the 27th is the next time that we really get some intel again. And that is from the diners in Wyoming. And they say that Gabby and Brian get into a heated argument at this restaurant. And this is the very last confirmed sighting of Gabby, because from then on, we'd have to take basically Brian's word for it. There isn't phone calls to her family after that or anything. So the last confirmed sighting of her is on August 27th. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thank you for doing the thumbs up. Thank you for doing the thumbs down. I am happy to have every single one of you here. I love having viewers. Who what? Oh, Hope 8 Fear. Thank you so much for signing up. We are so glad to have you. Todd, I see your question. Have the Laundrie parents been charged with anything yet? No, not criminally. Only this civil case so far. And I don't know if they will be charged. There's definitely argument that maybe they were accessory after the fact, but it would be difficult to prove for sure. So we have the last confirmed sighting. Then now from the lawsuit, we find out that on the 29th, Brian calls Roberta and Chris Laundrie, his parents, and says, Gabby is gone. That's the extent of what we know from that phone call at this point in time. If the depositions are released in their entirety, then we'll be able to see exactly what he said. So we will be able to find out more of the details. Did he actually say, what happened? Did he, whatever. So he ends up driving home. Also during that time, so I'm unsure when the phone call was, because it's just given to us that on that day he calls. On that day also, there was a person that was interviewed by the media and the police department who picked him up, a woman who picked him up he said he was hitchhiking. And he said that he was out doing errands while Gabby was back in the van working on their webpage and their social media. And so basically what people have surmised is maybe he was building an alibi at that point in time. Like, then he thought he'd get back to the campsite and maybe, the police would be like, oh no, look what happened while you were gone. Someone must have come here and killed her. So nobody really knows what he truly was thinking at that point in time, but he is picked up by a woman who says that he hitchhikes with her for a little bit. So, yeah, Amber, I agree with that. I don't think they will face any criminal charges, because maybe if they were there and moved the body, but otherwise it's pretty much difficult to prove that they did anything untoward. So, they did things that are morally wrong, in my opinion, and I think you guys will feel the same way. But so then Brian decides to text Gabby's mom, pretending to be Gabby. And Gabby's mom has said since she got that text that she knew there was something horribly wrong, because the text said, can you help Stan? And she's talking about her grandfather, who she never called Stan. So they were very worried. Brian drives the van, Gabby's van, back to back to Northport, sorry. So he drives to his parents in Florida. Okay, and on 9/2, Gabby's still not reported missing, by the way. On 9/2, Roberta Laundrie and Chris Laundrie retain Steve Bertolino with a $25K retainer. So all of a sudden, they're getting a lawyer. So he told them enough that they knew he needed a lawyer. So Bertolino enters into an agreement with the Wyoming law firm. I'm sure that's because he's not licensed to practice in Wyoming. So that happens on 9/2. And then on 9/6 through 7, so Brian gets home, and then they go on a sweet little family camping trip. So the Laundries, and so that includes Roberta and Chris, his parents, and then Cassie, his sister, her children, and her significant other. I'm not sure if it's her husband or her boyfriend, but her significant other and their children. And they just have a nice time camping. And then on 9/10, by this time, Gabby's parents are getting desperate. They have not heard from Gabby. They do not know what's going on. Roberta blocks Gabby's mom on the phone and on Facebook, as one does if they're super innocent. And then on 9/11, that's when Suffolk County gets involved, Suffolk County, New York. Gabby actually is from a town just right down the street from us. And she was reported missing at 6:05 p.m. And the Florida police, so the New York police call the Florida police. The Florida police go to the Laundrie house and they say, no, you can't come in. You have to have a warrant and you can talk to our lawyer. So on 9/13, this is where we find out something different from the lawsuit again. We had been told earlier that Brian didn't leave the home until like 9:15 when he was named a person of interest. But really, he left the home and, they didn't report him missing until the 17th. So there was some confusion about when he left. But he left, he runs away, 9/13, and he kills himself. Of course, we don't know, at what point in time, but I don't think he was trying to spend much time out there besides doing what he went there to do, which was to kill himself. 9/14, their lawyer, Bertolino, puts out a statement where he says that he hopes that Gabby will be reunited with her parents and that the Laundrie family is, devastated and that they also want her to be found and they want her to be reunited. And so obviously this looks sketchy now in hindsight. 9/15, he's named it a person of interest, and Bertolino is saying that they're going to remain silent. 9/16, Gabby's dad does a press conference. 9/16, 9/17, Cassie, Brian's sister, is on GMA, and she seems to just really not know what's going on. She wants him to turn himself in, etc. On 9/17, the Laundries finally say that Brian is missing. So on 9/18, a dual search is starting. So there's a search in Florida for Brian, and there is a search in Wyoming, which is the last place of the phone pings and things like that, for Gabby. Gabby's body is found the next day, and the Laundrie home is searched on the subsequent day. They do an autopsy on Gabby. They confirm that it is her through her dental records, and the manner of death is homicide. 9/22. Now we've got this place that Brian went camping, this reserve, was very much of it was underwater at the time. So divers joined the search. Then there's an arrest warrant for Brian because although they maybe don't have enough to say that he murdered her at this point in time, the FBI can get involved because he used her debit card, her Capital One card, debit or credit, across state lines without, her permission. So 9/25, we have a reward offer. Then 9/26, there's a memorial. Roberta and Chris this entire time are saying they have no idea where Brian is. He left to go hiking. That's all they know. There's subsequent news conferences with the Petitos. The Laundrie house, if you remember this, there's people outside literally day and night screaming at them, trying to get them to say anything about where Brian is at this point in time now that they've found Gabby and what they know. So the FBI returns on 9/30. ABC News gets the phone records. We're still waiting to see what that looks like. And then on 10/1, we see the terrible body cam stuff. And so we definitely begin to pick up that there was domestic violence happening, intimate partner violence happening in this relationship. On 10/5, Cassie again pleads to Brian via the media. She wants him to come home. On 10/7, Chris and Roberta join the search party. On 10/12, we learn from the coroner who did the autopsy that the means of death for Gabby was strangulation. And then on 10/20, they finally find human remains, basically because Roberta and Chris told the police where they, some of his favorite trails and things, and they see his belongings. And apparently part of this area had been underwater for a while. And then the coroner in that case determined that he was dead by suicide, gunshot wound to the head. So they also find a note. So the FBI, and there's evidence in this case, they find 2 different notes. So I like to always do the timeline of the case first, and then I always want to go into the people's own words. What do they say about themselves? So we like to do, show interrogations on these types of shows. I like to show, different things that they may write on their Instagram or whatever. So here's what we have on the Laundries. The first thing that we're going to start with: did the ME or CSI use DNA to finger? Are you talking about... They did not go any further I don't think they went a lot further in gathering evidence on Gabby's body, because Brian leaves a confession in his suicide note. So I don't know if that's what you were meaning, Todd. Thanks, Debbie. I appreciate it. I really wanted to do a really nice graphic, but time was running out. And so I was like, okay, we're just gonna go with what I have. So one of the things that is collected from the Laundrie home is a letter that has been in contention during this civil case. And the letter is called the burn after reading letter, because the envelope and the letter was written by Roberta to her son, Brian. Okay, I'm going to close this and bring up the other one for you because I have the letter. We're going to look at that. The burn after reading. Here we go. All right. So as you can see, the front of the card is like a linograph. I think that's what it's called. Print of a bird. It says remember, ellipsis. And then she writes out his entire name, Brian Christopher Laundrie. And then in parentheses, right after that, burn after reading. Now, it is Roberta's statement that she wrote this letter before Gabby and Brian left for their cross-country road trip. And that the things in this letter contain little colloquialisms and things like the runaway bunny, things that are gerund to, mother-son relationships all the time. And, people are reading too much into it. So the letter isn't dated, though. So we have no idea. Truly, we have to just go off what we think, our logical conclusion from the letter. Now, I will tell you that the judge has allowed the letter to come into play. So that would make you think that the letter is reasonably relevant to the situation. Obviously, the Petitos believe that she wrote this after Gabby had died. And we are going to read the letter. So you can decide for yourself. And you can decide, if you're a parent, if you would write a letter like this. I think it's a little bizarre. Okay. Oh, man. Let me see how. I don't know if I can move that over or not. Okay. I can move myself around. Okay, so I'm going to move myself over here while we read this. Okay, so I'm going to read through it first, and then we're going to go over it. I just want you to remember, I will always love you, and I know you will always love me. You are my boy. Nothing can make me stop loving you. Nothing will or ever could divide us. No matter what we do or where we go or what we say, we will always love each other. If you're in jail, not exclamation point, that's just an L. If you're in jail, I will bake a cake with a file in it. If you need to dispose of a body, I will is crossed out, show up with a shovel and garbage bags. If you fly to the moon, I will be watching the skies for your reentry. If you say you hate my guts, I'll get new guts. Remember that love is a verb, not a noun. It is not a thing. It is not words. It is actions. Watch people's actions to know if they love you, not their words. And then she quotes Romans 8:38. This verse is, therefore, I am certain that neither death nor life nor angels nor ruling spirits nor things present nor things to come nor powers from above nor powers from below, nothing in the entire created world can separate our love. Neither hostile powers nor messengers of heaven nor monarchs of earth. Nothing has the power to separate us. She also exclamation points and cites herself that that's the extended version of the verse. And then in parentheses, she says, nothing can separate us, not hatred, not hunger, not homelessness, not threats, not even sin, not the thinkable or unthinkable can get between us, not time, not miles and miles and miles. Okay. Oh man, sorry guys, I didn't move the thing again. So that's the other side if you want to look at that side. Whew. All right, first of all, let's see what I think about this letter. I'm seeing kind of what you guys think as well. I didn't. Thank you, Ashy. That was very kind. Ashy did a $10. Was that a super chat, babe? Oh, okay. So this super sticker is from Ashley. Thank you so much, Ashley. It's the pear character jumping up and down, and it says #1 fan. Thank you. And then Missy, I heard you just sent a Venmo as well. Thank you, Missy Mayhem. That's very kind. Thank you so much, Lisa. Jay just read to me from the other room what you said on your Buy Me a Coffee. And truly, truly sweet. She said that she lives to watch these shows with me on them. So thank you so much. That means so much to me. So the first thing that kind of strikes me from this letter is that it is so weird. Because I don't think that this is how I would talk to my child. This reads more like, to me, it seems more like a spousal relationship type of letter, rather than a mother-son or a mother-daughter. But I'm going to go through it and tell you what my thoughts are. First of all, I want you to remember I will always love you, and I know you will always love me. Kind of strange, because I feel like, why doesn't she just let him decide his feelings for her? But okay, so he'll always love her too. Nothing can make me, you're my boy. Nothing can make me stop loving you. Nothing will or could ever divide us. This divide word is weird to me too, because if you think of the word divide, I think of like a pizza, and you're going to like cut it into 8 slices. But the pizza is all the slices are pizza. But I would not consider a mother-child relationship to be something that can be divided, because they're not one being. I mean, they are until they're not. But they're not one being. They're not going to be divided. So that was weird to me, that word. I was like, it just strikes me as strange. No matter what we do or where we go, where we say, okay, here we're getting to the you go to jail thing. This is bizarre. If you're in jail, I will bake a cake with a file in it. It's weird. Because I am in the habit of telling my children that I will love them no matter what they do, but that there are things that they do that if they're against the law, like, hey, I'll come visit you in the jail, but you're going to have consequences. I would not say I'll try to get you out of jail, break you out of jail with a file. So that was interesting. Then again, it gets worse. Not even just jail. You could be in jail for a number of things. But if you need to dispose of a body, you need to dispose of a human being that you murdered, I will show up with a shovel and garbage bags. So I will become an accessory after the fact, is what she's saying in that point in time. I'm going to move myself again so you guys can see that part. Sorry. If you fly to the moon, I will be watching the skies for your reentry. I think that right there to me, and I don't know why this reads like that to me, but I think that means if you are no long, if you commit suicide, if you die, I will be watching the skies for you. That just to me has that type of symbolism. If you hate my guts, I'll get new guts. Okay. So strange again. And then we have this remember, love is a verb stuff that she launches into. And she says, you need to look at people's actions to know if they love you, not their words. So here she brings in a third party to the letter. Before, it's only about the two of them. And they are very symbiotic. You divide. So they are one being in this, according to her. And now she brings in this other example, but she wants it to be compared to her love. She wants to be the example to which he compares love to. So, she's telling him love's a verb and you're never going to, she's kind of saying you're not going to have love like my love almost, which is not something, yes, there is a different kind of love for a parent to give to a child, but this is so strange. All right, then she moves. I agree, Jersey Jen. This is so strange. I can't imagine. I don't have a biological son. I have stepsons and I have a daughter. This is not something that I would write to any of them. But even if it's that, biological type of thing, I wouldn't write this to my daughter. It's very, very strange. And then she quotes this verse that, she cites in the thing. I don't know. That's weird to me too. She needed to prove to Brian that she knew this verse was from the extended version. I don't know. That's just so strange. Oh no. Sarah says her husband would say this is a letter she'd write to her sons, but she swears it's not. Ha ha. Okay, Sarah, it better not be. You got to try to tone it down if it is. And Sarah's sons are also very young. They are not adults. So the way you parent a 3 or 4-year-old, they do need to be almost symbiotic to you in some ways. And then your job as a parent is to make them more individualized as you go. So Sarah's children are still young. We have hope for her. This is not going to turn into that kind of situation. So this verse is so weird too to me because it's a more talking about a spiritual love. And it's talking about how nothing can divide us or nothing can separate us from the love of God. So strange to me. Again, she's kind of comparing their relationship to that. But then I really think that this at the end is interesting where she says, nothing can separate us. The first thing she says is not hatred. The first thing. And then not hunger, not homelessness, not threats, not even sin, not the thinkable, not unthinkable can get between us. Not time, not miles and miles and miles and miles. Okay, so here's what I think. Hatred, I think, is very interesting that she put that first, because what I think about this letter is some people think that she wrote this, after Gabby was dead. I think she wrote this after Gabby was dead, but I think she wrote this before she knew the details. I think she wrote this because she was frantic waiting for him to drive home, because he drives that van all the way home. She has no idea. Only this, basic story that he probably told over the phone. I can't really think that he would get into this entire story that he leaves us later and we'll look at over the phone. I don't know, maybe, but I feel like because of the not this, not this, not this, she doesn't know what really happened. And she's speculating and she's saying, no matter what, even if it's this, even if it's that, I don't care if it's this or that, I'm still going to love you. And I'm going to rescue you is the overall theme of this. I'm going to rescue you. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do these things because I love you and I'm the only person that loves you the way that I love you. And that's the most important love in the whole freaking universe, including, any sort of spiritual love and life that you might have. So that's strange also. And then she says, not the thinkable, not the unthinkable, not time, and not miles and miles and miles. There are things in here that make me think that she wrote this while he's home after he's told them and gives it to him before he goes out on his mission. I think she's writing it before he gets home. And I think this is another speculative thing that I have that I have no proof of this whatsoever. But I think the reason she wrote this down and she gave it to him is because these were not things that she was comfortable with other people in the family hearing. I don't think she was comfortable with her husband seeing it. And I just think that she didn't want to have to say the things. I think she wanted, Brian to be able to absorb them. That's just my thought on that. I don't know for sure why she wrote this down. But to me, I don't think you can make a very strong argument for that you wrote this before they went on their road trip when you say burn after reading. It's just too strange. It's too big of a coincidence than to, put in with the shovel and the body and the file and the cake. So I think that that argument falls real hollow to me, Roberta's argument. I'm just looking at you guys' comments. I agree. Shay, I do not want to analyze other letters from you guys' parents. All right. Guts. I agree. Denise D says, that's the weirdest part of the letter. If you hate my guts, if you say you hate my guts, I'll get new guts. Super interesting to me because, to me, like, what, hun? Okay. Okay, it's all right. I will do that. Sorry that I'm covering up my face with the comments. I was gonna say that if Sloan tells me she hates me, I try my hardest to just say, like, I'm sorry you feel that way right now, but I'm not like, oh, let me totally change myself so that you don't hate me anymore. I tell her I think that's a feeling that you have right now. I think it will go away, or I hope it will go away. If I need to apologize to her, that's one thing, but I just I'll get new guts. Very strange. So strange. But definitely, and we've talked about this a lot lately on my shows, is when we see enmeshment. And this is an enmeshed relationship to the hilt, because she's telling him, like, there's no consequences for anything you ever do. I will, bail you out no matter what. So there is no point in here where she gives him even the slightest bit of that there could be rejection from her. He never has to fear any sort of disappointment or rejection from her. So that was interesting to me. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out about Roberta is what the Petitos said about her. Or I'm sorry, this is what Nicole said about her. So Nicole Schmidt. After they watched the depositions, Nicole watched the depositions and her husband from their home and on Zoom. And Joe Petito, Gabby's dad, went to the depositions in person. And so she says of Roberta that it would be before they asked her before she watched Chris Laundrie's deposition. So she watches Chris. She says there's no remorse and there's no compassion. This is the deposition that they're asking about. Their lawyer is asking questions about. Penny just barreled in here. I don't even know what she's. It's 20 minutes to dinner, and they're very hungry apparently. But there's no compassion. There's no remorse. This is at the time that their lawyer, the Petitos and Schmidt lawyer, is talking to Roberta and Chris about what they knew, when they knew it. And so they're basically describing when they find out that Gabby is dead. And so it's very shocking to her parents that this is a person that their son loved, that they let live in their home. And that was just a child, very early 20s, beautiful young girl. And they have no remorse, no compassion is what she says of Chris. Then she says it will be worse with Roberta. So she already knows. After that, they interview her. She says, there is pure evil in this world, and I have witnessed it firsthand. So, and Gabby's dad said they refused to look his way at all. They would not even look over to that side of the courtroom, all for 2 days of deposition. He said they were emotionless answers regarding a deceased child. So I thought that was very strange that they just had nothing. You would think that there could be regret without there being, and there could be sympathy without there being it doesn't have to be your fault that someone is dead. So you would think that maybe there could be some emotion, but apparently not. I think I wrote down, I forgot to say that she is we said, I will rescue you is the theme in this. I will help you avoid accountability. And she's the perfect martyr. If you hate my guts, I'm going to tear out my freaking insides to make you like me again. The very example of martyrdom. So interesting. All right. The next thing I wanted to talk about is that we have Brian's letter, his suicide letter. I call it his confession letter, his confession to killing Gabby. Hi, Joe. I'm glad you're here. Hi, Andrea. They are nasty people. You are so right. Okay, yep, I put that over my head again. I'm not supposed to do that. All right, hold on. Okay. Now you guys see how I do everything in life where I just narrate it to myself, but then I forget that I'm on camera. So I'm like, okay, minimize this. Now click the X. That's me. My mom once told me that it was so quiet in her house when I moved out because no one was just walking around narrating and singing out what they were doing all the time. That's me, friends. All right. Leonard Amber puts a very good point. This letter is triggering. This letter will most likely be triggering. He is describing what he says happened. It's triggering to talk about anybody who has committed suicide. It's also triggering to people that have been in domestic violence situations because this is his narrative that he is putting forth to the world. So let's get to it. And it is 8 pages long, but it is on a very small notebook that he had, so it shouldn't take us that long. But I'm going to go page by page with things so that we don't have to wait so long for thoughts. All right. Gabby, I wish I was right at your side. I wish I could be talking to you right now. I'd be going through every memory we made, getting even more excited for the future. But we've lost our future. I can't live without you. I've lost. I can't live without. Okay. I had this printed out and now I don't know where I put it. But basically, I've loved you more than anything. I look at our photos. He can't even bear to look at their photos. To recall times because it is so okay. Well, hopefully you guys can read this better than me. Then he recalls memories. This is all like a bunch of nostalgia for their trip. I will think of, laughing on the roof of the van, falling asleep to the side of some sort of shooting stars or something, and the crystal geyser, and he'll always love her. This reads more like a goodbye to someone who, you didn't murder. Maybe, something else. This part is bizarre, and it just keeps getting more bizarre, just like his mom. I'm going to go to page 2. It does get a little bit easier to read these. His handwriting is terrible in the first couple pages, and then maybe he settles down. I'm not sure. But this is interesting to me because he's basically in this part, he switches tense. At first he's talking to Gabby. Now he's talking to someone reading the letter. If you were reading Gab's journal, looking at photos from our life together, flipping through old cards, you wouldn't want to live a day without her. Knowing that every day you'll wake up without her, you wouldn't want to wake up. I'm sorry to everyone this will affect. Gabby was the love of my life, but I know, adored by many, maybe. Adored or loved by many. I am so very sorry to her family because I love them. I'd consider her younger siblings my best of friends. I am sorry to my family. This is a shock to them as well, a terrible grief. This is where it starts to get triggering to me because he's like, well, in the first page, it's annoying that he's like getting more excited for the future, but we've lost our future. No, we didn't lose our future, Brian. You murdered her, and that is why she no longer has a future, and now you are trying to avoid accountability. So you're spinning this narrative that is ridiculous. Your siblings are my best friends. It's just pouring salt on the wounds, I think, for the Petitos to see this kind of stuff. Like, I loved you guys so much. Okay, you killed her. Let's go to page 3. Oh, this is about her family. Oh, his family, I'm sorry. They loved her as much, if not more, than me. A new daughter to my mother, an aunt to my nephews. Please do not make this harder for them. This something as an unexpected tragedy. This occurred as an unexpected tragedy. This occurred like a car accident, an unexpected tragedy. A murder is not an unexpected tragedy and is not occurring. It is a choice that someone made. Rushing back to our car, trying to cross the streams. Oh, here comes the story. So this is his story that he is going to now tell the world. This is what happened. And it's banana sandwiches, if you believe this. So let's try to get through it. But basically, he's saying that they're rushing back to our car, trying to cross the streams of something creek before it got too dark to see, too cold. I hear a splash and a scream. I could barely see. I couldn't find her for a moment. Shouted her name. I found her breathing heavily, gasping, and she's freezing cold. And something that came from the blazing hot national parks. Okay, so it's a difference from it's now freezing cold. She's fallen, he says. She got wet. She's fallen. It's cold. They've got to get back to the van. In Utah, the temperatures had dropped to freezing and she was soaking wet. I carried her as far as I could down the stream towards the car, stumbling, exhausted, and in shock. Interesting that he wants to point out his state of mind at this point in time. He's exhausted and he's in shock. When my knees buckled and I knew I couldn't safely carry her, I started a fire and spooned her as close to the heat. She was so thin, had already been freezing too long. I couldn't at the time realize that I should have started a fire first, but I wanted her out of the cold and back to the car. From where I started the fire, I had no idea how far the car might be. Again, so now we're getting to the hero portion of our story where he has carried her. He carried her until his knees buckled. He starts a fire for, he is like the manliest man that's ever lived. He spoons her. He has completely romanticized this story that did not happen. So now he gets to be the hero. He is the one that is trying to save her. Okay, there. Couldn't find my mouse for a minute. Okay. Now we are going to go to the next part. He's talking about where the van was. He knew it was across the creek. When I pulled Gabby out of the water, she couldn't tell me what hurt. She had a small bump on her forehead that eventually got larger. And then there's some stuff crossed out there, which I guess he decided not to let us know about. Her feet hurt. Her wrist hurt. But she was freezing, shaking so violently. While carrying her, she continually made sounds of pain. Laying next to her, she said, "Little." Gasping between violent shakes, gasping in pain, begging for an end to her pain. She would fall asleep, and I would shake her awake, fearing she shouldn't close her eyes if she had a concussion. All right. We are nearing the end of this. We're going to go to page 6 quickly. She would wake up in pain, start her whole painful cycle again. That part really annoys me. Start her whole painful cycle again, which I think that harkens to what their relationship was like. Like they would make up and then she would do something that pissed him off again. And it would start all over again. And, it's like he had already just fixed the last thing. And now this whole thing is going to go again. So that's what that brings up for me. And I don't know if that's what he's thinking, but All right. So the whole, she's in the cycle and she's furious at me. She's furious that I wake her. She wouldn't let me try to cross the creek, thought like me that the fire would go out in her sleep and she'd freeze. I don't know the extent of Gabby's injuries, only that she was in extreme pain. I ended her life. I thought it was merciful. That is what she wanted, but I see now all the mistakes I made. I promised. I don't know that it's that he says I promised there. That I made. I promised. I was in shock, but from the moment I decided took away her pain, I knew I couldn't go on without her. So again, even at the moment that she's dying, now he wants to make it again about him. Now he can't go on without her. This is very common in abusive relationships. We see this like if you can't live, I can't live either. Like if we can't be together, I can't live. So if you're gone, I can't live. This is a common manipulation that's given to people during an abusive relationship. And that's how this part reads to me. I also read it as though he's sort of trying to explain possibly what the coroner may find on her body. He doesn't know the extent of it, but she was in pain. And again, he's telling us his state of mind. He's in shock. These are all excuses. There's no devastation in this letter. There is no sadness, only for himself that he now has to live without her. There's no true sadness for her and what happened to her, even if this was the story that happened. Then, okay, so he also says, I knew all the mistakes I made. To me, I don't feel like this was like I made mistakes in the relationship. I think he was like saying like I made mistakes in what I did after she was dead. But he says, I rushed home to spend time I had left. You had all the time you had left, you wanted to have left. You're killing yourself. You don't have like a terminal illness and you have time left. No, sir. You rushed home selfishly to spend time with your own family, not telling the Petitos anything about their daughter. You left her out in the wilderness. I wanted to drive north and let James or TJ, I believe they're relatives of Gabby, kill me, but I wouldn't want them to spend time in jail over my mistake, even though I'm sure they would have liked to. I am family. I am family not because of a fear. Oh, I'm ending my life. Yes, I am ending my life not because of a fear of punishment, he'll have you know, but rather because I can't stand to live another day without her. Again, this is the narrative of that they were so in love. He can't stand to live a day without her. It's not because he's afraid of punishment, even though he says in the time he has left, which ostensibly means before he gets caught. I've lost our whole future together. Every moment we could have cherished. I am so sorry for everyone's loss. Please do not make life harder for my family. So he has some wishes, his last wishes here. Please don't blame my family. Please don't make this hard for them. They lost a son and a daughter. And the most wonderful girl right now, the most wonderful girl in the world, Gabby, I'm sorry. To the most wonderful girl in the world, Gabby, I'm sorry. Good God. Okay. He still has some final wishes left for us. It's nice how he tries to, control his image as well as how we should react to the news. The general public, Gabby's family, etc. He's got some instructions for us. I have killed myself by this creek in hopes that animals may tear me apart. That may make some of her family happy. Please pick up all of my things. Gabby hated people who litter. Again, we're... Okay, and then before I talk a little bit more about that, finishing up the letter, I wanted to show you this. This is from Brian Laundrie's Instagram page. This is the caption from their engagement. Let me move myself. So this is their engagement photo. I have a real thing that bothers me in the media, and that is why I do not have their heads in this picture. I would have completely erased him if I could have, or erased her. Either way, I don't like when the media shows photos of people with their abusers or their murderers. I know that there are photos of them when they're in happier times, but I believe it's so triggering to see a loved one stuck in time with someone that ultimately hurt them and murdered them. So I try to never show photos like that, and that's why I just have this, what they were wearing for reference. My biggest fear, his biggest fear upon his engagement, is one day I will wake up and it will all have been a dream, because that is what every second has felt like since the moment we found each other. Till death do us part, or until I wake up. I'm so happy the answer was yes. Love you, honey. Again, so what I get from Brian is that I get that he was somehow rejected by her, and that in whatever way, big or small, it felt giant to him. So we're going to go back to our default scene. Okay. Thanks, Charlotte. I believe that he was in some way, I don't know, after that fight at the restaurant that day, what happened? She embarrassed him in public. I am positive of that because, she went back into the restaurant. He was throwing a fit over something and she went back in. I'm sure that did not go over well with him. He likes his image a certain way. He would not have wanted her making apologies for him or going back in somewhere. And she may have decided that it was enough. She was very popular. She was the popular one out of the two of them with their social media. She got a lot of likes. She got, I'm sure, male attention. She's beautiful, blonde, young, and she's in some of these gorgeous places and she's posting these beautiful photos of herself. And I'm sure that was threatening to him as well. So he thought, well, gosh, if she leaves me or she rejects me, she's going to have another person like this. She's going to be living this beautiful life. It's her van. It's her idea. It was her social media following. It wasn't his stuff. What's he going to be without her? And I believe that is ultimately why he murdered her. I also think that there was this, yes, exactly what I was going to say. Right from the very first day that she promises to him that she'll be with him, there is a threat of till death do us part. The happiest day, when you get engaged and the world seems limitless at that point in time. And you write the weirdest freaking caption in the world that's like, my biggest fear is that this is a dream and that you will reject me. My biggest fear is you will reject me because this is a dream and it won't be real. And, otherwise we're going to be together till death. It's so toxic. And the sad thing is that these types of captions, these types of things are in novels, they're in stories, they're in our movies, and they are seen as romantic gestures. That, oh my goodness, he would never, she would never leave me. He would never leave me. I am sorry, but we cannot extrapolate to our feelings to forever. If someone does something real messed up, you shouldn't have to stay. So it's sad to me that people looked at this young couple and they looked at, like, he wanted to remind you, look at all our photos. Look at the cards that she sent me. Look at this. Don't look at this. Look at the image that we put out, which was that everything was beautiful and everything was perfect, not what really happened. Not that I left her in the woods and I left this poor baby outside and didn't tell her parents and didn't tell her loved ones and made them have this excruciating time of their life where they had no idea where she was, if they would ever get her back, if she was alive, if she wasn't alive, if she was hurt somewhere. Denise, thank you so much for the super chat. It's very kind of you. I also see I missed one from Jen, Jersey Jen. She says, oh, I never can do this right. Okay, she says, Denise said, this is enlightening and insightful. Great job and thank you. And then Jen sent one also that said, Shannon, you're doing a fabulous job. Much love. Thank you. Thank you all. It was very sweet. Susan, my girl, Susan Lupo sent a $10 Venmo. Thank you so very much. So here are my final thoughts on this. I know I'm a little bit over 4 o'clock. Babe, nobody was going after me? Okay, good. All right. I didn't want to be going into, I know Joe's show was before me, but I didn't know if anybody was coming on right away. So I wanted to get into my extra thoughts about this. I have a couple last thoughts. Yes, Donnie, I accept the thought of $5 from you. Thank you so very much. He was pointing out that what? All right. So, I wanted to go through a few things. And the main thing for me that sticks out in this story that is so upsetting is that these are all, domestic violence is so preventable. And I think that in some ways Brian was set up to fail in his life because he had this very enmeshed relationship with his mom. His mom goes on to tell him from the time he's born, she'll never reject him. She'll never disappoint him. No matter what he wants, she's going to rescue him. No matter what he wants, she'll do it. And honestly, how are you ever supposed to compete with that as a romantic partner? You cannot. There is no one that would ever stack up to that type of a thing. And that is why it is so important as parents that we let our children be individuals, but that we let them experience disappointment and rejection, and that we let them experience those things without siding with them all the time. If they don't get to play, it's not necessarily the coach's fault. Maybe they need to go talk to the coach and find out what they should be doing to be able to get more minutes. If they get a bad grade, it's not because they had a bad teacher. Now, of course, obviously there are circumstances where, they're an abusive coach or whatever. But I am talking about, by and large, disappointments that happen to our child. I see so many reactions from parents that my child is never at fault. You're the one, you're the one that's rejecting them from the outside. And that is just so wrong. And we can't have that. And you stick up for them no matter what. Also, if you are super involved in your child's romantic relationships and, a girl breaks up with your son, that is not the time to trash this young woman. It is the time to say, breakups are terrible. They suck. I will watch movies with you. I will help you get through this. But this happens and you're going to be okay. And she's going to be okay. You guys are going to be okay and you don't have to be together. Not everybody's supposed to be together. And, whatever her reason was, learning that someone does not want to be with you is a good enough reason to stay out of their way from then on. If somebody makes a boundary that they don't, want to talk to you anymore, it doesn't matter if you feel like you have a really good reason of why you should talk to them, or you just want to send, flowers because they got a new job and you found out about it from social media and you just want to do something nice. No, they asked you to not have any contact with them. So you're not going to have that contact with them. So you're going to show your children that they have accountability to other people, even if other people are telling them something they don't want to hear. And that's really hard. It's really hard as a parent because you love your kid like crazy. And when they tell you that so-and-so's being a jerk to them, your first reaction is that you want to defend your child. But I think that especially raising young boys, it is so important to teach them about consent and rejection, and that women don't belong to them. Girls don't belong to them. Girls are, the person they're in a relationship with is an autonomous person. It's not someone that is meant to fill all your needs as a person. It is a person that is supposed to go along with you with things, but not become you and become what you want. And I think also being able to tell your kids, that's not for you. This is a thing that I think is difficult in our day and age, because our kids have such instant gratification with anything. We can never tell them that they have to really wait for any sort of information. They can just get on Google and Google it. It's very difficult for us to have them wait for anything. We have things like DoorDash. We have Amazon is going to deliver this to me by tonight now. We have hardly any waiting and hardly any, this isn't for you. And I think you do your child a disservice when you let them believe that just anything is for them. Anything. I think that at times when they don't get the role in the musical, or they don't, whatever it is, that wasn't for you. That's just the way it is. And I will, help you try to get through it. But we can't change that. And it's okay. Disappointment is okay. The more they experience disappointment, the easier disappointment is to get through, right? Because our brains, if we have practice with things, our brains are then like, okay, I've done this before. It really, really sucks, but I'm going to get through it. I'm going to end up on the other side. So, Shay, you're so sweet. She says she's so jealous of our kids and she bets they're so happy. Well, right now, I will tell you, they're not so happy, because they're at a stage of life where we have to keep telling ourselves they have to reject me right now, because otherwise we end up with this. We end up with an adult who is out of their mind because someone rejected them, and they don't know what to do because they've never been rejected by mommy or daddy. Not ever. And mommy and daddy said rejection is not okay. Anybody that's ever rejected me has been wrong. So they're not happy with us right now because they're 13 and 15. And that's just not a time that you're typically very happy with your parents. But that's also a gradual stage of development. And actually, Shay, that was such a good segue, because I want to read. Jay says, and this is true, they reject him quite often. So true. Okay, I am looking through to make sure. Oh, okay. So when you say hurt people, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, Sarah. Will the hurters of the world ever change, or can they? I believe that any human has the capacity, or 90% of humans have the capacity to change. However, you have to be self-aware that you need to change. And that's one of the hardest things. If you're in a situation where you're one of those types of people, you're typically not, as a symptom of that, you're typically not self-aware. So it's doesn't happen often. Yes, Charlotte, exactly. It is an integral part of development as a human to reject your parents. You must do this. You must learn how to do it so that you are not, if you don't learn how to reject your parents as authority, then you will submit to anyone and you will end up in a cult. Because, you are taught that you can't reject anything and you must do exactly as the authoritarian says, and you must, stay in whatever they want you to do. And there are so many reasons that it is healthy for our kids to reject us. Yay. Awesome. Andrea is she is a child, adolescent, adult psychiatrist. She's awesome. So glad you're here. And I'm glad you do what you do. Missy, I would love to adopt you. You are welcome. We won't even notice another person around here. You can share a room with Sloan. What I wanted to close with today is this poem. This strikes me because I don't know if my dad's watching. Sometimes he watches. But my dad gave me this book when I graduated from high school. I did not understand this book at the time, I will tell you that, because I was, 18 and dumb. But my dad gave me this book, and I wanted to read. And why did my phone just lose it? Here it is. Okay. So my dad gave me the book, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And it has a poem or an essay on children. It's a poem. It's not very long. I'm going to read it to you because I think it says it far better than myself. He writes, and a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And although they are with you, yet they do not belong to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backwards nor tarries with yesterday." I love this line. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are set forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, he also loves the bow that is stable. This is from 1923. And it's public domain, so I don't think we'll get a copyright for me reciting that poem. But I love that because it is somewhat difficult to remember all the time, especially when they're little squishy, wonderful, adorable little things that we love our whole entire life and that we would lay our life down for immediately, that they are their own person and that it's one of the most important things that they separate from us and become exactly what they're supposed to be. So I want to thank you all so much for being here today. Yes, babe, it's a bow with a W, but we do love a bow that is stable. That's true. So thank you so very much, everybody, for being here, for spending a little bit of Saturday with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Breaking news. This is Shannon's channel now. I don't know, Donnie. You know. Oh, our other channel. Actually, you guys, yesterday, this is so crazy and so wonderful. Yesterday, our other channel, Jay, reapplied to be monetized on our first channel, and it is monetized. And it is a steal of a deal at 99 cents for membership. So you'll get custom emojis. We're going to have different emojis on each channel, and we're going to announce more about this channel and how we'll use the two separate channels going forward. So again, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to go to Murder Church in the morning, Publicly Buzzed. If you're not following them, you better be. You will love it. Steve from Publicly Buzzed is running Murder Church in the morning. Pastor Steve, as we call him, on Sundays. He will be returning to the first trial they're watching of Jack Kevorkian. So, and last week, there were so many great conversations in the chat. You guys really don't want to miss it. So, thank you. Oh my gosh. And also, yesterday, the writer that we are having on Monday for Creators Who Crush, Michael DeWitt, he is a lifelong, not member, he's a lifelong liver. He's a lifelong citizen of the Low Country in South Carolina. And he wrote a book about the Murdaghs, Follow the House of Murdaugh. And it is just now available. It just came out yesterday. So we are having him, I feel like we're having him like on his press junket. He's on his author's tour, and he's coming on Creators Who Crush. He is a lifelong citizen of the Low Country, but he's also a longtime journalist. He's a humorist. He's a storyteller. He has a podcast. We cannot wait. He also, like, our communications with him, he has been the kindest person. I am so excited to actually have a conversation with him and for you guys to be able to hear a little bit more about him. So that will be Monday night, 7 p.m. Also on Monday, you can join us back on our channel. Jay will put up the link because we are returning to the courtroom with YSL trial. I will be definitely tuning in to see what Young Thug and his compatriots are wearing, and so we can report on their fashion as well. So thank you so much. Have a lovely evening tonight, and take care.